Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jackie and I create mosaics with sea glass. And today I'm going to talk to you about preparing a frame for use in a mosaic. So I got this frame from my father-in-law a few weeks ago, and I know I want to do a mosaic on the glass of the frame, but it needs to be cleaned up a bit. And it's a little bit dirty. I haven't cleaned it yet. I thought first I would do some sanding of the paint, just to sand off some of the rough stuff, and then I'll decide whether or not I want to paint it. So it's not a whole lot of equipment that you need. I basically have an orbital sander. I have it plugged in with the extension cord into my garage, so I've got lots of rope to work with here. And very important, you need a mask. You'll find when you're cleaning a lot of these older frames, the paint is old, the frames are old, and it could have some lead in the paint, so be sure to wear a mask when you're doing that. So I'm just going to give you an idea of how to do this. So as you can see with this one, I started sanding and I'm revealing a bit of purple paint underneath, which may or may not be interesting. I'll wait, I'm going to do some more sanding and I'll see what it's like when I finish. And if it looks good, I might leave it as it is, or I might decide to put another coat of paint over top, just to make it look nice and finished. And I also have to flip around and do some sanding on this side. So I'll go ahead and sand that, and then I'll get back with you about what I'm going to do next to get this frame ready for a mosaic. So here's another frame that was given to me a few weeks ago by a neighbor, and it was really dirty and roughed up, and it had a big crack in the frame here. And I knew I was going to want to do some sanding on it, but before I sanded it, I wanted to reinforce the crack with some silicone. So I washed it up. And then what I did was I ran a bead of silicone along all of the cracks. Just because a glass has a crack in it doesn't mean you can't use it, but if you run silicone along the crack in the back, and then when you put the sea glass on the front, there's more silicone, it makes the crack even stronger. I haven't had any break on me when I've done that. In this case, there was a tiny little hole in the glass as well, so I just attached a piece of sea glass on the back. And when I'm doing the design on the front, I'll just put another piece on front, and you won't even notice that from the front. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this one down a bit and see what that looks like. It needs quite a bit of cleaning up on the front here. So I finished sanding down my frame. And I've decided I'm going to paint it, because once I sanded it down, I revealed all this purple paint underneath that was on the front of the frame, and I don't particularly like it. And on the back of the frame, I revealed some green paint that, I don't know, just isn't that nice for me. So I'm thinking a nice coat of white paint will freshen it up and make it really nice for my sea glass mosaic. So the paint that I use this. It's Bayer paint. I think any brand paint will probably work for you. I do find that I like to use the paint that's good for cabinets and trim, because it makes it nice and sturdy, and it's worked really well for me in the past. And I also am using a paint and primer in one, just because I'm kind of lazy and it saves me that step of having to prime first. So I do the paint and primer in one. So I have my paint, I have my 1.5 inch brush that's angled, and that's all I need. The only other thing I do use a glass scraper, because there's some messy paint still on the glass, and then after I paint I might get some more paint on the glass, and that just helps scrape off any paint that gets on the glass, keep it all nice and fresh. Now with this frame, I finished sanding this one all down, and I was quite tempted to leave it as it is and not paint it, because once I got a lot of the messy paint off, it revealed kind of a nice distressed look. However, it's really still quite messy. When you're trying to decide whether or not to paint a frame, it will depend on what type of condition your frame is in, and also what type of look you prefer. For this one, I'm thinking it's going to look a lot better painted, so I am going to go ahead and paint it. And you might tell me, oh, Jackie, you've ruined the frame. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you what it looks like. One thing, I'm not going to paint the back. The back is this brown color, so I'm just going to be really careful when I'm painting to try not to get any of the white paint onto the back and see how that works. Anyway, I'll go ahead and paint this and show you what the result is. So I finished painting this frame. I did 2 coats of white paint and I'm quite pleased with how it looks. And then I used a glass scraper like this to scrape off any paint and also some of the tough dirt that was on it, and gave it a really good cleaning with some glass cleaner. And now it's ready to go to create my sea glass mosaic. So this is step 1. I have the canvas all ready to go. If you want to see all of the steps in my process, you can check out my book. If you want to read everything in one place, here it is, Windows to the Past, Creating Sea Glass Mosaic Art. You'll see everything you want to know in that book. And but this is just the first process. I will do a video to show you what I do with this frame. Now with this frame, I did 2 fairly thin coats of paint because I still wanted it to look a little bit old and scuffed up. But it looks a lot better than it did. It was really scuffed up. Now it looks ready to go. And with this one, I'll show you what I do with this one in a future video, because I have some plans for how I'm going to work with this crack that's in this pane right here. And I have some really good ideas and I'm kind of excited about it. So I'll get back to you on that. So I also wanted to show you this frame. This is an old window frame, a very old window frame. It was extremely rough, so I cleaned it up and I sanded it down, and I'm really pleased with the way it looks. It still looks really rough, but it has a lot of character to it, so I've decided I'm not going to paint this one. I'm just going to leave it as is. A few things I did have to do to it. All of the caulking around the inside of the glass had come off. So I used this white paintable interior caulking, and I caulked all around the inside of the glass. Otherwise I would have been in a situation where the glass was probably going to fall out because the caulking had all, and the putty had all dried up and fallen off. And the other thing was there was a tiny little crack along here. So I took my clear silicone that I used for the sea glass and I put a small bead of silicone along that crack to reinforce it on the back. And then on the front, when I'm doing my mosaic, I'll also put some sea glass along that crack to make sure that it's reinforced and it won't break. So this frame is all set to go. So just a real quick review on everything you'll need to fix up your frames to get them ready to do a sea glass mosaic. Need some paint scrapers to scrape up some of that loose paint, an orbital sander to sand it down really well, and sandpaper, of course, for your orbital sander. I do use paintable caulk in the cases where some of the caulking on the back of a window frame has come off, just to replace that. And then if you don't forget your mask, you need your mask. Protect yourself from any of that potential lead dust. So you need some paint. I use paint and primer in one, and I use paint that's meant for cabinets and trim, a brush. And then you'll need some glass cleaner and a glass scraper to get your glass all nice and clean and ready to go. So thanks for joining me today and learning all about how to prepare your frame to get it ready to create a sea glass mosaic.